Most people think aging happens gradually, one slow day at a time. But scientists have discovered something shocking. When you hit 70, 5 specific changes activate in your body almost overnight. And here's what nobody tells you. If you notice these changes happening, you're actually aging well. Most people miss every single one until it's too late. My grandmother used to say she felt the same at 75 as she did at 50. She wasn't lying. She genuinely believed it. Then one Tuesday morning, she couldn't get out of her chair without using her arms. 3 weeks later, she moved into assisted living. What happened? She missed the signs her body had been sending for months. Signs that could have changed everything if she'd recognized them early. These 5 changes don't announce themselves with pain or dramatic symptoms. They arrive quietly, reshaping how your body works from the inside out. And the people who age successfully, the ones still hiking at 80 and living independently at 90, they're not genetically superior. They simply noticed these shifts early and adapted. The first change happens while you sleep, except you won't remember it. Your sleep patterns undergo a complete restructuring around age 70, not the kind where you just wake up earlier or need less rest. Your brain fundamentally rewrites how sleep works for you. Deep sleep, that critical phase where your body repairs tissue and consolidates memories, drops dramatically. By 70, most people produce 40 to 50% less deep sleep than they did at 50. Your brain starts treating sleep like a luxury item it can't quite afford anymore. But here's what matters. People who age well notice they're waking up more frequently. Instead of panicking about insomnia, they adjust their entire approach. They stop trying to force 8 consecutive hours and embrace a different rhythm. Some sleep 4 hours, wake for an hour of quiet reading, then sleep another 3. This pattern called biphasic sleep was actually normal throughout most of human history. Your body's internal clock shifts forward by 2 to 3 hours around 70. Suddenly wanting dinner at 4:30 isn't random. It's your circadian rhythm recalibrating. People aging successfully work with this shift instead of fighting it. They go to bed when tired, even if it's 7 in the evening, and use those early morning hours productively. Temperature regulation breaks down next, and this one catches everyone off guard. Your hypothalamus, the brain region controlling temperature, loses about 20% of its specialized neurons by 70. Suddenly, you're freezing when everyone else is comfortable, or you're overheating on mildly warm days that never bothered you before. Your sweat glands decrease in number and efficiency by roughly 40%. That's your body's air conditioning system running at half capacity. Meanwhile, the fat layer under your skin that acts as insulation thins by 30%, leaving you vulnerable to cold in ways you've never experienced. What separates successful aging from struggle? Recognition and response. People who notice they're getting cold more easily don't just complain. They layer clothing strategically. They keep their homes between 68 and 74 degrees year-round. They install thermometers in multiple rooms because they've learned their internal sensors aren't reliable anymore. They set water reminders on their phones because they've noticed something crucial. They don't feel thirsty even when dehydrated. Your body stops sending clear thirst signals around 70, which is why dehydration becomes a serious risk. People aging well don't wait to feel thirsty. They drink on schedule. The third change affects something you do without thinking dozens of times every day. Digestion. Around 70, your entire digestive tract enters what gastroenterologists call permanent slowdown mode. Your esophagus loses up to half its muscle coordination. Swallowing becomes something you have to think about instead of an automatic reflex. That sensation of food getting stuck isn't your imagination. It's real. Your stomach produces 30% less acid. Sounds good if you've dealt with heartburn, right? Wrong. That acid breaks down proteins, absorbs crucial vitamins like B12, and kills harmful bacteria in your food. Less acid means nutrients pass through unabsorbed, and bacteria survive that shouldn't. The finger-like projections in your small intestine that absorb nutrients shrink by 25%. Your pancreas produces 40% fewer digestive enzymes. Food that never bothered you before suddenly leaves you bloated and uncomfortable. People who age successfully notice their digestion changing and make immediate adjustments. They eat smaller meals every 3 to 4 hours instead of 3 large ones. They chew each bite 30 times, compensating for reduced saliva and enzymes with mechanical breakdown. They add digestive enzyme supplements 15 minutes before meals. They embrace fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut daily, maintaining gut bacteria diversity in an increasingly hostile environment. They adjust their fiber intake carefully, increasing soluble fiber from oatmeal and bananas while reducing raw vegetables their weakened system struggles to process. But these 3 changes, as significant as they are, pale in comparison to what's happening to your balance and muscle mass. Those final 2 changes determine whether you'll walk independently at 80 or need assistance with basic tasks. The fourth biological shift strikes your balance system. And unlike the previous changes, this one determines whether you'll navigate your home confidently at 80 or live in constant fear of falling. Three separate systems fail simultaneously around 70, creating what researchers describe as a perfect storm of instability. Your inner ear houses tiny calcium crystals floating in fluid-filled canals. These detect head position and movement. By 70, 40% of the sensory cells in this system have died. Your brain receives garbled signals about where your body exists in space. Standing up feels different. Turning your head creates momentary disorientation you've never experienced before. The sensors embedded in your muscles and joints, called proprioceptors, tell your brain where your limbs are without looking. Their sensitivity drops by half. This explains why you suddenly misjudge that step you've climbed 1,000 times, or why reaching for something familiar feels uncertain. Your body's internal GPS is degrading. Vision contributes more to balance than most people realize. After 70, contrast sensitivity decreases 60%. Depth perception weakens 40%. Edges blur. Distances become harder to judge. Low-light situations turn dangerous because you can't distinguish obstacles clearly anymore. Here's where it gets worse. Even when these three systems manage to detect a problem, your brain's processing speed for balance information slows 70%. You sense you're falling, but your body can't react fast enough to prevent it. The delay between detection and correction becomes your enemy. Your ankles represent the first defense against small balance disruptions. Those small muscles surrounding your ankle joints lose 40% of their strength. Ankle flexibility decreases 50%. Your body compensates by relying on hip movements and stepping strategies that are less efficient and more likely to fail completely. Fear compounds everything. Studies show that anxiety about falling increases your actual fall risk by 30%. Muscle tension from worry prevents the fluid. Automatic movements, good balance requires. You become cautious, which ironically makes you less stable. Blood pressure regulation affects balance too. Orthostatic hypotension, that light-aided sensation when standing up, affects 30% of people over 70. Those moments create extreme vulnerability. You're upright, but your brain isn't getting adequate blood flow, and that's when falls happen. People who maintain better balance don't have superior genetics. They train deliberately. Standing on one foot while turning your head challenges your vestibular system. Closing your eyes while standing forces your proprioceptors to work harder. Reaching exercises in multiple directions improve visual spatial integration. Dual task training produces remarkable results. You perform balance exercises while simultaneously doing cognitive tasks like counting backwards or naming animals. This mirrors real life where you need stable balance while thinking about something else entirely. Your brain learns to multitask effectively. Again, Tai Chi reduces fall risk by 45% according to multiple studies. The slow, controlled movements combined with weight shifting, mental focus, and social engagement create the perfect intervention. It's not mystical. It's practical retraining of systems that have deteriorated. Environmental modifications become mandatory, not optional. Throw rugs disappear completely. Grab bars appear not just in bathrooms, but along hallways. Lighting improves dramatically, especially on stairs and in transitional spaces between rooms. Clear pathways free of obstacles become the standard throughout your home. Footwear transforms from fashion choice to medical equipment. You need firm, non-slip soles. Heels stay under 1 inch. Secure fastening prevents slipping. Many podiatrists recommend supportive shoes even indoors because your bare feet lack the stability they once provided. Activity timing matters enormously. Your balance peaks in late morning after you've been moving for a few hours, but before afternoon fatigue arrives. Schedule challenging activities during this window. Avoid risky movements early morning when you're still stiff, or evening when you're tired. Balance deterioration isn't negotiable. It happens to everyone. But the degree of deterioration and your response to it determines whether you remain independent or become dependent on others for basic mobility. Now the final change, the one that controls everything else you've just learned about. At exactly 75, your body triggers what scientists call sarcopenia overdrive. You lose muscle mass at 3 to 5% annually. By 80, 25% of your remaining muscle has vanished. This isn't about appearance. This determines whether you can rise from a chair unassisted, climb stairs independently, or maintain the strength necessary for daily living. Your body begins consuming its own muscle for fuel even when you're eating enough calories. The mechanism behind this seems almost cruel, and understanding why it happens reveals something fundamental about how aging actually works at the cellular level. Researchers at the National Institute on Aging found something disturbing. After 75, your muscles stop responding to the very signals that built them in the first place. Anabolic resistance means protein and exercise, the tools that worked your entire life, suddenly become far less effective. Your satellite cells plummet by 70%. These stem cells repair damaged muscle tissue. Without them, everyday activities create microdamage that never heals. The losses accumulate silently day after day until you notice weakness where strength used to be. Type 2 muscle fibers vanish at double the rate of type 1. These fast twitch fibers generate power for quick movements. Catching yourself during a stumble, rising quickly from a chair, opening a stubborn jar. All these depend on type 2 fibers that disappear faster than any other muscle component. Motor units die off permanently. Each motor unit represents one nerve controlling dozens of muscle fibers. When the nerve dies, those fibers stop working forever. Your body creates no replacements. The connection simply ends. Hormones collapse simultaneously. Testosterone in men drops to nearly undetectable levels. Growth hormone production falls 80%. IGF-1, essential for muscle building, becomes so depleted, your muscles can't receive growth signals even when you exercise correctly. Inflammation markers spike 300%. Interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor create a catabolic environment where breakdown constantly exceeds building, regardless of nutrition or activity. Your body exists in perpetual destruction mode. Mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses producing energy, decrease 50% in number and 30% in efficiency. Your muscles operate with 65% less available energy. That crushing exhaustion after minimal effort isn't weakness of will. It's mathematical reality. Protein synthesis slows 60%. You need 1 5g of protein per kilogram of body weight daily just to maintain muscle, nearly double the requirement for younger adults. Building new muscle becomes exponentially harder. 10 days of bed rest after 75 causes muscle loss, equivalent to 2 years of normal aging. Recovery becomes nearly impossible due to anabolic resistance. A simple illness requiring bed rest can permanently reduce your functional capacity. Fighting this decline requires precision. Protein timing becomes critical. 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal triggers muscle protein synthesis. Spreading intake throughout the day works better than concentrating it at dinner. Leucine emerges as your primary weapon. This amino acid specifically triggers muscle protein synthesis. You need 3 grams per meal to overcome anabolic resistance. Eggs, chicken, and dairy provide concentrated sources. Vitamin D deficiency affects 75% of people over 75 and directly causes muscle weakness. Supplementation improves muscle function up to 20%. This isn't optional anymore. Exercise timing matters enormously. Morning workouts, when cortisol runs naturally higher and anabolic resistance sits lowest, produce better results than afternoon or evening training. Recovery periods must extend. 72 hours between training the same muscle groups compared to 48 hours for younger adults. Your reduced satellite cells and slower protein synthesis need extra time. You must eat like an athlete even when you feel anything but protein immediately after waking when muscles have fasted overnight. A protein-rich snack before bed, preventing overnight muscle breakdown. Never going more than 4 hours without protein during waking hours. Understanding this process happens to everyone removes shame and frustration. This isn't about being lazy or weak. This is biology, a process nature programmed into every human reaching 75. The key difference between people who maintain independence and those who lose it isn't genetics, it's response. Those who understand these 5 changes adapt their entire approach to aging. Sleep architecture changes demand new schedules embracing natural rhythms rather than fighting them. Temperature regulation failures require environmental controls and constant awareness. Digestive slowdown needs smaller, frequent meals with strategic supplementation. Balance deterioration responds to deliberate training, challenging all 3 systems simultaneously. Muscle loss requires aggressive protein intake, strategic exercise timing, and patience with extended recovery. These aren't possibilities. They're certainties awaiting everyone who reaches 75. But certainty doesn't mean helplessness. Knowledge transforms terrifying surprises into manageable challenges. Your body at 75 operates under completely different rules than it did at 65. The sooner you accept this reality and adjust accordingly, the better your outcome. Fighting against these changes wastes energy. Working with them preserves independence. Every strategy mentioned here comes from research on people who maintained function despite these biological shifts. They didn't avoid the changes. Nobody does. They adapted to them intelligently. The difference between thriving and merely surviving after 75 comes down to one thing: Accepting that your body has fundamentally changed and adjusting every aspect of your daily routine to match its new requirements. That's not giving up. That's strategic adaptation to biological reality. These 5 biological shifts arrive whether you're ready or not. Sleep architecture rewrites itself. Temperature regulation fails. Digestion slows permanently. Balance deteriorates across 3 separate systems. Muscle mass enters catastrophic decline. No amount of clean living or good intentions stops what happens at 75. But here's what separates the people still hiking at 85 from those who lost independence years earlier. Recognition. The ones who thrive don't possess better genes or secret supplements. They simply noticed these changes early and responded intelligently instead of pretending nothing had shifted. Your body at 75 follows different rules. Accept that reality or spend years frustrated fighting battles you cannot win. Adaptation isn't surrender. It's the only strategy that works when biology rewrites the fundamental code of how you function. Every person who maintains independence past 80 made this choice. Stop resisting what's already happened and start working with what you've become.